Cross-Faded, the sports podcast that you didn't know you needed. Our views and opinions may be a little unconventional. The host may be a little high and maybe a little tipsy. The following opinions and views have nothing to do with the 989 Network or its affiliates. Other than that, sit back, grab a drink, roll up a fatty, and enjoy the show.
Thank you for tuning in to our new sports podcast, and welcome back. As always, I'm here with the one, the only, Benny, and Zack the Attack. As always, my name is Connor the Condor, so let's get ready to talk ball.
Cross-Faded Sports at you once again. We were talking the Lions schedule the last time we were talking, and we had to end with the Bears because the biggest icon in the draft is Caleb Williams. And Zach's got, I think, some player comps for us.
So we're 3 days away from the draft here, boys, and back when draft season got started, all we heard was Caleb Williams is the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck and probably ever.
Hopefully a straight
dog. But I want to get back into that topic here, being so close to the draft. You know, if I want to hear how you guys feel about Caleb Williams, if he is the greatest prospect of all time. And I want to compare him, you know, to some of the other number one overall quarterbacks from the previous year. And I got a list here that you guys haven't seen yet.
How many of them have crawled into his mother's arms in the stands and cried?
Ooh, probably none. And I also have a list of the top fantasy players from last season.
Quarterbacks or
quarterbacks
all around?
only?
Okay.
So I want to throw this list at you guys here, and I want you to think of it two ways. I want you to think of it as if you were a GM for drafting number one overall for your football team, or if you were a fantasy football manager drafting him.
Ooh.
So we're going to start the list off with the number one overall draft picks these previous 20 or so years. And we're going to go back a year with Bryce Young in 2022. Are you taking Bryce Young or Caleb Williams?
After his first season, I mean, obviously I'm not taking Bryce Young. I'm going to, unfortunately, and I fell in love with him in the quarterback documentary, the Manning Passing Academy documentary, where they have all those college quarterbacks come in. He seems like one of the coolest people in the world, quite honestly. Like, Bryce Young seems so nice and so humble and so cool, but I guess I would probably take Caleb.
He's just not going.
Bryce Young is a guy you want to root for and you want to cheer for, but at the end of the day, you already took the risk. You already somewhat seen what he was capable of. In my opinion, I am taking that bigger risk and seeing what Caleb Williams is capable of. So as a GM, I'm signing him. As a fantasy manager, I'm signing him as well. He's definitely going to ride my bench first couple weeks, but who knows, if he starts popping off, he's definitely going to be number one QB on my team.
Well, and after last year, because, oh, God, man, we could really talk a lot about fantasy. I can't wait for fantasy football season. That's going to be a whole separate weekly podcast along with our Lions coverage and stuff. Just wait, everybody. But the fact that there were so many injuries last year, you almost have to draft two quarterbacks in fantasy football now. And if you can't get one of those marquee backups that you could potentially use as a weekly on and off starter, taking a hot shot at Caleb in round 14 or 15 in fantasy football, safe bet.
Yeah, especially the talent in the locker room that Caleb's walking into compared to Bryce Young. No offense to Adam Thielen. He did pretty damn good as a fantasy player last year, but he does not compare to DJ Moore or Keenan Allen.
Well, and, you know, if DeAndre Swift actually stays healthy, oh, God, against the Lions, that would make me disgusted.
So now we get to some of the fun ones here. We're going to go to 2021 and the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine. Who you guys taking, Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams?
Honestly, right now as we stand, I'd probably take Trevor Lawrence just because, I mean, love the kid. He's got great talent. He's got great IQ. He's still young as can be. He's growing. He's going to be ever growing for the next, 4 or 5 plus years. And he's going to have that top, QB IQ and, the kick and scramble. He can throw the ball. He's smart with the ball. And in my opinion, on that note, I would take Trevor in the long run or for a couple years over taking the risk, not knowing what Caleb's capable of with this team.
Yeah, I think the only argument you could really make is that Trevor Lawrence has a lot of tread on the tires, and they usually only use that term for running backs. But the kid never missed a game for so goddamn long. And last year was like the first time in high school or college.
Experience, and he's growing that.
So he does
kind of
have tread on the tires, but yeah, like you've already seen what he can do. The dude's a baller. He's got a great arm. He can scramble and run and stand in the pocket. He's like that in between where the league seems to be going to people like Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. He still can do that old school stand in the pocket, stand tall, take the hit. I'm going Trevor Lawrence as a GM all day. And then for fantasy now, this is a total different conversation. You're talking about Trevor Lawrence. You're going to draft him probably as your number one quarterback in fantasy. So you would probably actually they're going to be talking about, I guarantee they're going to say draft Trevor Lawrence in whatever round and then draft Caleb Williams as your backup. So honestly, I'm going to say I would draft both of them on my fantasy football team if we're going to do it that way.
See, I'm tossing it up there, but I'm going to have to go with Caleb Williams just because of Trevor Lawrence's injuries last year being many variety of injuries.
He was beat up because he's trying to be a warrior.
GM wise, I'm taking Trevor. Fantasy wise, I'm gonna have to say Caleb Williams because either way, I'm hoping to draft a quarterback better that puts up better numbers than Trevor fantasy wise. So if I'm gonna have someone ride the bench, I'm gonna take that risk having Caleb Williams there versus Trevor Lawrence.
So now on to another fun one. We're gonna go to 2020 with the number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow.
Joe Feisty.
Well, this is easy. The injury there's an injury concern, but his first year, his offensive line was terrible. Like we could totally, if Caleb Williams performs like Joe Burrow in his rookie season with that terrible offensive line, and
it's
they
almost
rebuilt
same
that
situation,
and like he had weapons and he performed well, like that would be crazy. And I don't know. Gosh, this is harder than I thought. I was going to go really quickly to Joe Burrow, but I guess that might be on to the doctors. I would love to hear what a doctor says about all the injuries Joe Burrow's faced. You know, especially with how I'm going to go Caleb Williams. I'm surprising myself here because Joe Burrow's got the big contract. He's got the recent injury history. I just talked myself right into it. I'm going to take a chance and get that rookie contract because that rookie contract gives you so much more opportunity. Then maybe they could re-sign both of their marquee wide receivers.
Fantasy manager wise, I'm saying screw it and taking the risk and going Caleb Williams. GM wise, just due to money, I'm taking Burrow because the amount of women that are obsessed with him and buy his jerseys, like it's the number 1 bought jersey besides Travis Kelce amongst like women.
The one chick who got her wisdom tooth removed, and she was like, "I'm so happy for Joe Burrow because he has a girlfriend."
The only person,
the
only 2 people my mom, sister, homegirls know are either Joe Burrow because he's hot or Travis Kelce because he's dating Taylor Swift. Their jersey sales are insane due to women being obsessed with them.
And Joe Burrow, we're allowed to hate you because you got all the women, bro. Joe cool.
You can share.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, dog. Leave some for the rest of us.
So I'm going with Joe Burrow on this one. Personally, I just like him and Jamar Chase matched up together.
They do have a good connection.
That's super cool,
They
too.
do have a good connection.
You'll see more teams trying to do that if they can. The fact that they would get 2 teammates who won a national championship on the same team. And Joe Burrow was like, yeah, coach, I want Jamar Chase on my team. And he's done nothing but perform since he got there.
All right, so we're going to kind of finish up here with some of the injury-riddled guys. We're going to go now to 2019, Kyler Murray or Caleb Williams.
Kyler Murray, healthy, and if I know he's going to be healthy for the year or whatever I have him for, I'm taking him all day, every day. He's shown that, yes, he's made mistakes just like every other quarterback, but the guy is so quick on his feet. He's got a pretty decent IQ. He's got a great arm. He's an all-around pretty good quarterback.
No Marquise Brown, though.
Yeah, fuck off. I know that. But even on that note, he is still a great quarterback who can scramble, and them legs move so damn quick. And so I'm going to have to take Murray just because of the IQ he has now today with both GM and fantasy.
I kind of backed myself into a corner after everything I just said about Joe Burrow, but I would never drop Joe Burrow for Caleb Williams if I already had Joe Burrow under contract. But if I had to pick where Joe Burrow is right now, and so blah, 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 now we're on somebody who has had lots of injuries, has not been consistent, and has not been as good. But he hasn't had the weapons either. But there's no way I can take Kyler Murray over Caleb Williams after I just said Joe Burrow.
Are we talking these picks then when they got drafted or where they're at now?
So this is where I actually want to switch it up. I was about to lead into that with this next guy here. So real quick, I'm going Caleb Williams over Kyler Murray.
I got to with all the injuries. I want to like
Kyler Murray.
Kyler.
I like him so much.
Yes.
He carried
Murray back when he got drafted versus Caleb Williams.
His speed
I'm taking
is so
Caleb
quick.
Williams.
He
Now,
could be a sleeper
Murray, I
keeper
would
for
take
me
Murray
because
of bad
he
IQ.
was drafted in the 15th round and I picked him up on the bench.
He's so fast rolling out, and he's got a great arm.
Fucking low legs.
So I could keep Kyler as a 15th round. So I really want to like Kyler, but I'm still gonna have to go Caleb.
Oh,
over
you guys, that's
Kyler.
like one of our last rounds. That
Yep.
bastard. That's a good
Yeah,
keeper.
So with that, I want to lead into this next one, and I want to switch it up here as we get into the older years of the first rounders. I want you to think of as they were kind of coming out of college, what you heard of them,
Okay,
And-
so we were comparing
we're
them more as
switching
players where they are in the NFL.
Now
Would
we're
you
switching to
maybe
then and
now,
at
now
that
we're
time.
gonna because these guys are still a little bit young. They're only 3-4 years in the NFL, so they're still. We don't know exactly what they're gonna be. So with these older guys, though, we kind of know what they're being.
just to insert a joke, and I'm sorry for Daniel Jones, but like we'd all draft Caleb Williams over Daniel Jones, right?
But he was not. He's not on this
Straight
list. I can tell.
Dog
that.
shit.
Bug eye. So with this next guy here, being a fellow classman at Oklahoma with also Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield coming out of college compared to Jesus, I cannot
Caleb
talk.
Williams
Caleb
right
Williams. And then let's think about fantasy as the players they're going to be. Where they are now.
That's a tough one because Baker Mayfield, I mean, that arm is so strong, yet Caleb Williams' running and scrambling game is so strong. So I'm torn in between both of them. I guess in my way, I'd take Burrow in the long run for his arm so that he's less prone to injury like Caleb might be when he scrambles, but that's in the air for me.
I think I love this term. I feel old saying it, but Baker Mayfield's got that moxie. I like it. I feel old. I feel so old saying it, but it's so true. Like his teammates love him. Like he was the dude who's grabbing his crotch in the middle of the game, eating a hot dog, and like that. That's the type of player that would have some questions coming into the draft, and he did. He still ended up being the number one overall pick, and he led the Browns to their first playoff berth in a while, and they still ended up letting him go, which is crazy to me. Like, it's a hard comparison. If I had to compare him straight out of college, though, I'm gonna pretend I'm Brad Holmes. I'm taking Baker Mayfield because he fits the grit of the Detroit Lions over Caleb Williams.
I feel like Baker could fit an offense, like you just said, more than Caleb can. Yes, Caleb might have more, athleticism, this or that, but Baker's definitely one of those quarterbacks that you can fit into an offense to where.
See, I totally agree with Bainey there. Baker Mayfield's planting that flag at Ohio State.
Oh my, yes.
He was some electric film.
Put
in
his
college.
big balls and Dan Campbell's big balls
And then
together.
Caleb
Oh
Williams
man.
is crying in his mom's arms.
Yeah. And like we're open to feelings and like mental health and everything, but that's something, maybe when you're losing a game, you don't want your quarterback to be doing that.
Yeah.
Cry in the locker room with the boys, maybe. I'm not saying you can't cry with your mom later. We're not saying that. But like, he went and ran and
Might
did
also be
something, in
crying,
my
punching
opinion,
the
very
lockers.
selfish.
Yep.
And instead, but Baker Mayfield's for the boys. I never
for the
heard any of his
boys.
teammates say anything against him in that way. He's always for the boys, and he's had to face through some adversity.
So, Bainey, I want you to keep that mindset of Brad Holmes here, because our next quarterback taken number 1 overall back in 2016, who is now a Detroit Lion, Jared Goff, Who are you thinking compared to Caleb Williams?
Oh, that's a good one. I thought you were going to say Matt Stafford. I'm pretty sure he's on the list at some point. But
You don't know.
Well, just like Baker, Goff's that kind of quarterback who can fit into an offense. And, if it's a good pass offense, pass somewhat run offense type deal, can make that quarterback stay comfortable in the pocket. I mean, Goff shown through and through that he's great with that. So, I'd sadly have to take Goff, I think.
See, and I'm flipping back and forth. I'm glad we didn't actually talk about this because I'm trying to be completely honest with my answer with all the information I have in my head right at this moment. And we talk about how we want Jared Goff to have more mobility. He's kind of one of the last of that dying breed of a stand-in-the-pocket quarterback. I just complimented somebody earlier for saying how he has a Trevor Lawrence for having the ability to do both and actually, roll out. And, we just don't see Jared Goff have the movement. So if I was Brad Holmes and we're talking straight out of college and you had to choose between Jared Goff and Caleb Williams, I might lean with Caleb Williams because of the mobility, but the interview would sell me. Like we just said, it would be the grit mentality, the ability to fit in with the locker room. I just, unfortunately, and it might just be media interpretation. We could talk about it more, how agents for the draft are putting all this media out there for all their draft picks, and some of that shit is just bull. They talk about on the Pat McAfee show how Caleb Williams quote unquote camp said this. And they're like, who is that? What are we talking about here? Is somebody just putting out false reports? So it's not fair how hard I'm judging Caleb Williams, and maybe he is an epitome of a locker room guy. And I guarantee you Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell would figure that out if we had to worry about it, but we have Jared Goff. So right now I'm going to lead towards Jared Goff because we know, and I have a little bit more information, that he's in the adversity he's faced. But who knows? Maybe in a couple years we're like, holy shit, the fact that we even had this conversation is crazy.
See, this is definitely going to have to break down into the two categories for me. As a GM, I am unfortunately going to have to take Caleb Williams just because of what he could be, if you put him in the right situation.
That scrambling ability, and his arm is legit.
He can be a pocket passer.
Yep.
But if I'm talking fantasy, I'm taking Jared Goff all day. He is the one who's going to stick in the pocket and get the play out. Caleb Williams is going to run and get sacked or something. So you're risking him fumbling the ball more likely than Jared Goff is.
I ran Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields as my two quarterbacks last year, and I was so proud because when they were healthy, I had a 29-point quarterback, and then when they weren't healthy, now I'm scrambling waiver wire to find a replacement because Anthony Richardson's on IR and Justin Fields is on the 8-week IR. Now I have two quarterbacks on my roster who are hurt, and now I've got Tommy DeVito as my starting quarterback.
Spicy pepperoni.
Although he did give me 20 points. Shout out to Tommy DeVito, bro, for fucking giving me 20 points that week.
All right, so these next few are going to be some fun, and I think we can get through them. Jameis Winston, 2015. Who you taking?
Straight up, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell guy. I love Jameis Winston. I lived in Florida when he was playing down there. I'm just gonna he's got a cannon of an arm.
He does.
I know he threw for 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions that one year, but he also threw for 5,000 yards. Mm-hmm. He was just slinging it to Mike Evans. I don't think, I know Tom Brady and Mike Evans won a Super Bowl, and he's going to put that above, but I guarantee you he liked getting the ball from Jameis Winston.
He was not afraid to throw that thing.
No. He knew Mike Evans was down there, and he'd throw it up to him. He threw up to him too much, but I just like Jameis Winston, so I'm just totally being a homeboy favorite.
Well, I'm gonna have
super biased.
That's funny because the one time I think I'm gonna take Caleb Williams type deal. I mean, great guy, like you said, threw for so much, but at the same time, he put up all those numbers, threw for all those picks. You got to have some IQ after so long. Yeah, either throwing up the ball or scrambling.
He's eating the W.
Yeah, want to know what that is? That's a
W.
But on that note, Caleb Williams just capable of making the plays and throws. He's got the arm just like Winston does too. So I'd take a gamble and a lottery slot, and I'd take Caleb Williams over Jameson.
You know what sucks is I've had this list most of the day, and this is the one I'm still most stumped on, just because of Jameis Winston's locker room.
I'm like
you know,
60-40
he's the
on
guy.
We already talked about one of our
No one
previous
hates him.
recordings, the whole Jamal Williams touchdown, and Arthur Smith was so pissed, and James
He's a man of the people.
Come on, the best pregame talk. Y'all know what that is? Shows a W. That's a W. We hate those.
So I think I'm gonna have to stick with Jameson too. He's a man
so
of the people.
charismatic
You
and
can't-
Yeah, but
Crazy.
where's he at now?
True, but so let's get right to this next one. This one is probably the biggest controversy. Is Caleb Williams really the best generational prospect of all time compared to Andrew Luck?
Absolutely not. I'm so I'm going to be a little biased here too. But like Andrew Luck, his numbers were pretty ridiculous as a rookie. And Peyton Manning had kind of moved on at that point. I think he was in between his injury and rehab when Andrew Luck had his rookie season. He was still rehabbing. The Colts didn't want to re-sign him and released him because they weren't sure if he'd ever play again. And I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan. I should have I could talk to you guys for like 2 hours about Peyton Manning, you know. Plus, he's everywhere. Like, we could just talk about his commercials for 30 fucking minutes. But
And reviving
Andrew
Detroit.
Luck, they were like, how are you going to, the reality is, how, to even put it in perspective, how are you going to replace Peyton Manning? That's crazy. Peyton Manning is one of the best to ever do it. You can make the argument that he's a better quarterback than Tom Brady, a better winner and football player, maybe not, but a better quarterback, you could make that argument. There is an argument to be had. And Andrew Luck stepped in and threw for 4,000 yards and rushed for 800 yards in his rookie season on a team that went 1-15 the previous season. So Andrew Luck is a straight dog.
See,
An old ass dog.
He ain't even that old. He just retired early because his body was banged up. He was like, I'm done. I'm a mechanical engineer now.
that's the hard part.
He's a smart guy. He's got that high IQ.
But he was willing to put his body in there, you know, and you kind of want that on your offense, but at the same time, not out of your quarterback. So that's the hard part.
Yeah.
You're
Not on my number one pick. I mean, he's got that great arm, like you said.
Andrew Luck, I believe we could look it up. I'm pretty
Please,
sure he
what
ran
was
like
his 40 time?
4 or 5.
Bullshit.
It was ridiculous.
Bullshit.
And he's an old school quarterback. He's like 6'5", 240. So like he was running like a 4.4 or 4.5. I swear to God, we can look it up right now. Like I'm telling you, Andrew Luck is a way better athlete than you give him credit for. And he was a pocket. You know, back then we were still in that transition. We didn't. That was in that weird area where they were doing Wildcat because the NFL was trying to mimic NCAA.
At most a 4.59. So 4.6.
Okay, 4.6 though. 4.6.
Still,
Look
for
at
a
what
white quarterback.
Patrick Holmes ran like a fucking 4.9 or something, and like they always tout his scrambling ability.
But I'm gonna have to stick with Andrew Luck just because he's gonna put his body in there. You know, I view him kind of like that Matt Stafford. You know, he's gonna be in that game all the time. You know,
And there was the crazy part is when he was coming out, I'm a big Peyton Manning fan. They were quite literally comparing Andrew Luck to Peyton Manning, but he was more athletic. They were like, this guy's so intelligent, so cerebral with the offense. He handled, and guess who his coach was? I don't know either. I was going to say Jim Harbaugh, but I'm not 100% confident.
in college.
Stanford, and was it Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, that was.
That's okay. I went
Luck's
to go
coach.
say it with a lot of gusto, and then I just like paused and like totally drew a blank.
Google or Kansas City just does not want us to know Patrick Mahomes 40
Because Patrick Mahomes-
it's a 4.8.
Oh, okay. So it's yeah. See,
That's
and he
way
literally
than Andrew
tweeted
Luck's ads.
and he was like, "Will you quit like the NFL
Bro,
films?"
it took me a
he was
second.
like, "Will you quit
it was
doing
not
that?"
showing anything about his 40 time.
He was like, "Will you please stop doing that 40 thing where everyone beats me?" And like they
I
showed it
don't
with
want people to know how slow I am.
that fucking 330-pound defensive tackle ran like a 4.4,
Bro.
and they did it with Patrick Mahomes. He was like, "Are you guys serious? That's not fair."
So I think we all can agree Andrew Luck over Caleb Williams.
He's just, dude, like the hype for Caleb Williams I'm not sure that Andrew Luck, as somebody who's been loving, like when NFL Network first got on cable, I love following the draft coverage and watching like all the 40 times and shit. I really enjoy that type of stuff. Andrew Luck had so much hype. Like, just like Caleb Williams, they were like, there's no way that the Indianapolis Colts do not take him. Like that, like he was going to be the number one pick. I don't feel like we've had that in a while because there was a lot of debate last year with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, even throwing out Will Levis, and like it was just certain that he was going to be number one, like no doubt.
So we got 2 left here in the number 1 overall picks that I want to get to. We're going to throw it back to a pretty good talent coming out of Auburn, Cam Newton, a.k.a. Superman. That's a hard choice.
This is a good one. Dude, and Cam Newton's story is so crazy. Like, if I'm Brad Holmes-esque, I feel like Cam Newton, transferring from Florida because he was a backup to Tebow, which is crazy, and then still winning a national championship at Auburn. Excuse me. The beer.
I'm taking Cam Newton just because his physical appearance and size. Yeah, that's a big dude. Like, not to compare the two, but Kyler Murray compared to Cam Newton can see and read the defense when he's under center, as where Kyler Murray, small ass, can barely see over the center's helmet. I mean, just being able to not only read the front box, the 5-2, or what defensive linebackers or defensive line is in, but being able to read and see where the secondary is at, where the safeties are placed, that helps a lot. And, I mean, in my opinion, I'd take Cam Newton. Even though he didn't do too much with his career, I'd still take him, hoping and praying that he'd do something for our team.
Well, I mean, he definitely gave the Panthers a shot.
Yes,
Super Bowl.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he
He
did
did
but
go to a Super
for
Bowl,
how
and he had an
long,
MVP season. But you're right, his
He did
luck.
kinda
when he
blow
did
that
play,
Super
he
Bowl.
played great and was amazing, but he did not play for very long. I mean, the guy could still be playing right now.
I think that's a good. I'm glad you did Cam Newton after Andrew Luck. Very comparable, like because they're both big bodied. They put their Cam Newton is most well known with Superman diving over the line and stuff. But like Andrew Luck trucked some linebackers back when linebackers were still 270 pounds and stuff. Like those are some big men. Man, that's so hard. Because Andrew Luck was by far a better thrower in college. So if I'm going purely on their college evaluation, not that Cam Newton didn't throw it, but like if you're evaluating him for the future in the NFL, Caleb Williams' arm probably looks a lot better and more refined than Cam Newton.
Probably
but he
more
doesn't have the
accurate.
rushing
Well, when
ability
you-
and the big body.
Well, exactly. When you have that big body of
throw that
240 with
mobility. I
might
Andrew
actually
Luck,
lean
just like
Caleb Williams.
Josh Allen.
Ooh.
you've
If
got
we were
that.
I'm
comparing
going
them
Cam
both,
Newton.
they would take, let's say Cam Newton, we're talking I think he came out after they won the national championship.
Yep.
So if we're comparing both their Heisman winning seasons, that would be so tough. They'd be like picking and grabbing at straws because they look so amazing.
You see, it's getting tough. So I want to throw it here to the last number 1 overall pick I want to get to, just because we got to have a little love for him. Going back to 2009, Matt Stafford coming into Detroit.
Whoop, whoop.
Or Caleb Williams.
Okay, so do you guys remember Matt Stafford was quoted, and at this point he might have already known that Detroit was going to take him, but he went to the same high school as Bobby Lane. Bobby Lane was our quarterback that we won all of our
did not know
NFL
that.
championships. Or sorry, excuse me, the not NFL. Well, what was it called? What was the original not NFL? Stoner moment. Before it was the Super Bowl, it was like the NF or whatever it was championship games. So the Lions won a bunch of championships in the 50s, and Bobby Lane was our quarterback. And Matt Stafford was quoted saying like he would love to bring a Super Bowl to the Detroit Lions if he got drafted number 1 overall because he went to the same high school as Bobby Lane. I know that. I just can't remember what the fuck the NFL was called back then because it wasn't called the NFL. But either way, that's a crazy fact. And so if I'm still Brad Holmes and, we probably could use that moxie term with Matt Stafford too. And even though he went through injuries as a Detroit Lion, I'll never forget when they interviewed him after he went back-to-back seasons tearing his shoulder. And they're like, so what did you do this year different in his third year? And he was like, I put on 40 pounds of muscle.
Well,
we were like, what? He was like, yeah, I was like 225 last year. I'm like 255 this year. And like, or whatever it was. And I was like, holy shit. And now how many games has Stafford missed in the last like 12 years, 15 years of his career?
Well, the last year or two have
he did win a Super Bowl.
We'll go before the Super Bowl.
No matter
we'll
what,
cut it
though,
off there.
on that, I want to know though on Stafford and just having that pizzazz and this and that. I might be biased just because of seeing and watching him before. I'm going to take Stafford no matter what, and my opinion is going to be a bias just because after seeing him or destroy his shoulder and go back in after the other team call the timeout for him to throw the game-winning touchdown, I will never
Still the
not root
longest
for him.
clip in NFL
I will
films
never
history.
not root for him. I mean, I'll be biased.
So I think
just
we're all a
'cause-
little biased here going with
Yeah,
Matt
we're all
Stafford.
pretty fucking biased.
I had to throw that
We
in
can
there.
call this the Matt Stafford podcast, maybe.
You can compare anyone to Stafford, and I'll be all right. Stafford, I'm taking.
We really aren't taking Caleb Williams over many of the other first rounders in the previous drafts here. You know,
Well,
only
hey, I
take
want to
him
roll
2 or
back a little
3.
bit too. Like Matt Stafford's arm, even now, is
Yo.
absolutely unreal. Like if we're talking pure throwing power, like Caleb Williams shines with, maybe Patrick Mahomesy with his like innovation and his sidearm and getting some balls out crazy. But Stafford can do that too, and he does it with so much power. Like
Yes, and on that point, like, yes, they get that ball out and just as good as Caleb Williams, but I took a couple people like Baker or Burrow over him due to this and that. But if I have an offense that pertains or helps out to like a scrambling and quick kind of quarterback, then I would definitely take Caleb Williams. If I have an offense that's set up that I have a good run game and I have a good offensive line to keep my quarterback in the pocket to pass, then I'm taking people like Burrow or Baker all day. But if my offense set up and somewhat for the option and or option pass, then I would take Caleb Williams in that situation.
And honestly, like we could talk about how like offenses have scrambling options and stuff like that, but most of the time, like Patrick Mahomes will say, he doesn't ever want to run the football because one, he doesn't want to get hit, like he doesn't want to get hurt, and two, it's unnecessary. He wants to throw the football downfield. It's way quicker to move the ball by throwing it. But then you see how much he runs in the playoffs, and it seems like the only fucking guy in the entire NFL is Josh Allen, who can just run the ball whenever he wants, like a goddamn monster.
He's
Another
250.
man amongst boys, straight dog. But, like, it's hard, to stay healthy when you're fucking running the football that much and scrambling. So, like, you got to be able to push the ball down the field accurately. And, like, I feel like we haven't talked about enough, like, Justin Fields' big thing. His time to release is so long. And Caleb Williams' time to release is just about as long as Justin Fields.
Ooh. He does like to hold the ball and try to extend plays.
And
I really view him as like a young Russell Wilson trying to really scramble and, make the play happen and then just chuck it up.
Shout out to my goddess, Mina Kimes. She was the one that told me that on NFL Live. So, like, the time that you're holding the football is fucking huge. Like, a guy like Matt Stafford gets the ball out in, like, 2.3 seconds and with force. Like, he's quick and efficient. And, like you said, scrambling is amazing if you have the athletic ability to be a Patrick Mahomes, to be a potential Caleb Williams, because he does. He showed it in college. But can he do it and stay healthy in the NFL behind a terrible Bears offensive line with all those weapons? Can you imagine how frustrated Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are going to be if they traded Justin Fields away and he can't get them the ball?
Mm-hmm. So we're going to go into the top fantasy players from last year now, and we're going to do this in reverse, and I want us to purely think of fantasy players of what they're coming into. As you just mentioned, Caleb Williams coming into Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and DeAndre Swift. That's a pretty stacked offensive.
He's going to rise up draft boards like crazy when fantasy football season comes. He's going to probably be drafted way higher than he's supposed to be.
Then he should be. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm not falling for it. But we're going to do this in reverse, too. So we're going to start down with number 18 last year, Justin Fields.
Oh, well, now
We're
he's
starting
a
off on-
backup, but I'm going to keep, in our keeper league, I'm probably going to keep him and Anthony Richardson and hope that he eventually takes that starting job.
Yeah,
but
you
you're
better
not
pray to
drafting
God both of
Justin
them don't.
Fields over Caleb Williams
No.
right now. Caleb Williams is going higher. That's easy for me.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all agreeing there, Caleb Williams. So let's go up to who I'm kind of shocked here at number 17, Justin Herbert.
Wow, he was drafted so high. He finished 17.
Yep.
This is a good. Oh man, this is a good exercise, Zach. I'm really enjoying this because I get to have some genuine reactions.
Justin Herbert, just because like before the size, like how big the kid is.
Nope.
Doesn't really run that much, but can flick the ball like no other.
How many passes did J.J. McCarthy throw in his 3 years starting? No way. Justin Herbert's not a fantasy relevant quarterback anymore. They're gonna run that fucking rock. That's what I think. So I think if it gets to that point in the draft, people will probably draft Caleb Williams in the we're talking fantasy football now, just to make sure everyone knows.
Yep.
So we're talking
This is
fantasy
purely
football
fantasy
this
now.
upcoming season.
I mean, they're gonna get Williams this year, but if
Not
Williams
gonna
is
say-
in his class,
I
then
love
type
Justin
deal, putting
Herbert.
up-
I feel like he's very similar to Trevor Lawrence, big, tall, lengthy. He can move, and like I'm not saying, but I just you know what I mean. They struggled last year, but I think Jim Harbaugh is going to simplify it. He's going to have a couple
It's
quick
gonna be
reads,
run heavy.
and he's going to run. They're going to run the rock.
Keenan Allen was out for how many weeks last year, though?
And
Mike
he was
Williams was
number
out most of the
17.
season.
Exactly. Yeah, that's. I mean, like 2 years ago, Herbert was my quarterback that won
He
in
was top 10.
fantasy.
He was
but,
top
like,
10 2 years ago for sure.
Yeah, and the year before that, I think too. Herbie Fully Loaded was my team name for like 2-3 years because I got his ass.
So who we got now?
I'm
I'm
I
taking
would take
Justin
Caleb
Herbert
Williams.
because his
Caleb-
ass
For
put up
Caleb
great
Williams over
numbers in
Justin
fantasy
Herbert.
football.
So
for
I
me.
think me and Bain got Caleb and Connor. You're stuck on Justin
Yeah,
Herbert.
He put up great numbers for me. I literally named my fantasy football team after him for like 2 years.
All right, we'll go to number 16 now, Derek Carr.
Definitely taking Caleb Williams
Yeah,
over Derek Carr.
Caleb Williams.
I mean,
That's
I
not.
don't think that.
Even though Chris Olave,
Where'd Derek Carr go, you know? draft?
Probably.
Oh, that's a
I
good
don't
question. Where he
know.
went
It
in
was,
drafts last year, because everyone was sure what
average
he still
11th
threw,
round.
like for over 3,000 yards. But like he's, he got it. You know what it is? It's always the rushing. So like if we're gonna really get into this in fantasy perspective, like when you take Derek Carr as your starting quarterback, you're probably gonna take someone like a Justin Fields or somebody who can rush. Kyler Murray won't fall that far. So you would hope that you could package a Derek Carr with a Caleb Williams or a rushing quarterback. So I would like to say I would take both, because if you're going to settle as Derek Carr as your potential starting quarterback, you want a backup who you think could maybe be your starter.
Yep.
But if it got to that point in the draft, you know that Caleb Williams has been moving up each draft, I'd probably have to go with Caleb Williams. I think we're all in agreement here. The
Yep,
rushing potential
Caleb.
upside and all the weapons.
All the weapons.
Like it's just fantasy is different than winning football games. They may not win a lot of games, but I think he could potentially get some fantasy points.
So we already covered Matt Stafford here, and I think we're all still going to be biased and stick with Matt Stafford.
Yep.
Well, and
I
like
don't care.
now, and we're talking.
good.
I think we made a good point. We can roll back to it. Without Aaron Donald, when we were talking about the schedule, that defense is going to struggle. That man,
He's going to have to throw.
He's gonna be like, oh, I'm back on the Detroit Lions again. I'm gonna have to throw
He's
for
gonna have to
500
sidearm
yards,
every pass
and
to get it
fucking
out.
we're gonna be throwing the ball. Puka Nacua and what's the other guy?
What's the other guy, Cooper Kupp?
Well, Puka got all the variety last year because
Yeah.
Kupp
Yeah,
was
because
hurt.
Cup.
Okay,
No,
I
and Cup
apologize.
was.
He came back
majority-
healthy through the
Yeah,
halfway
but
through
majority
the
of the time, Cup was getting the ones on him.
Oh yeah, no,
Puka's
yeah,
getting
oh,
the
yeah.
best,
Even when he came back
Flip
hurt,
the switch, Cup's putting up them numbers like
you're
Puka
putting a
did,
nickel
too.
on Puka. Stafford's got him all day. Fucking double,
Exactly, that's
double
what I'm
Cup.
saying.
We've seen it.
So like that's a, that we'll have to see come season. I'm not sure what their offensive line looks like, but if Stafford thinks like he can be behind that offense line and stand in the pocket and throw like when he was the Detroit Lion and he's got two receivers, that's one of the few quarterbacks with no rushing ability who could be a lot better than Caleb Williams. Especially, it seems like his career kind of got revitalized. I can't wait for the Netflix quarterback documentary because he's going to be in it this year. Last year was Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. Shout out to that. It's a fucking fantastic docuseries. You guys should all check it out. But I can't wait to see Stafford on it because we're all Stafford fans. You know what I mean? And like we'll be able to see like he thought about retiring, and then we saw him throw the football last year, and he looked fucking awesome.
So somehow Matt Stafford was at 15 at the end of the season last year overall. And this is really surprising to me. At 14 right above him, Russell Wilson. Are you keeping Russell Wilson on the Steelers, or are you taking in Caleb Williams coming into that nice locker room in Chicago?
I feel like Russell Wilson's got some of the same issues we're worried about Caleb Williams with his whole, like, what is his team called? Whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm
locker
probably
room.
taking Caleb Williams.
Yep,
I'm
taking Caleb Williams all day.
Yeah,
I
but
might be a little biased after this last season, even though we're not supposed to be comparing that. But yeah, definitely taking Caleb.
Well, then let's change the question real quick. Russell Wilson before he was traded on the Seahawks or Caleb Williams?
Ooh, see, now that's a different.
That's what,
yeah,
not,
exactly.
You know, like, so we cannot judge him based on what
True.
happened with the Broncos.
Yeah, you're right.
We're probably all taking Russell
that's
Wilson over Caleb Williams. We thought that was going to be a bank
that's
trade.
probably
Probably,
a
yeah.
60-40 for me
Yeah.
then. I mean, I may or may not take Russell, but I'm still going to stick with Caleb, not being biased within this last season or two, even though Russell did put up great numbers in Seattle.
Still surprised me, though, that after that year last year, Russell Wilson was still ahead of Matt Stafford.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
I know Stafford missed some games, but then technically Russell Wilson got benched at the end of the season too. So
Yeah, they got benched so they didn't have
Let
to
go.
pay him.
well, they're still paying
'Cause, I mean,
him like
they weren't
$90
doing
million.
shit. So
Yeah.
yeah, true. You're right.
So then at 13, we have a guy we already compared, Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine. Fantasy purposes now.
Oh. God, he was so hit or that team was so hit or miss in fantasy because I had Calvin Ridley on my team, and when Calvin Ridley played and was healthy, he would either he was boom or bust, and that's so shitty in fantasy. When like you almost rather your wide receiver give you 10 points each week than give you 26 one week and 3 the next.
So just a reminder, we kept Trevor Lawrence over Caleb Williams in the first round.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm going to have to take him right now because he does have rushing ability. When he is fully healthy, he will get some rushing touchdowns. He will snake some from Travis Etienne, and that I think would push him higher on my draft board.
I'm still just going to keep with Trevor just because if I'm thinking like Lions offense in a way, Trevor, in my opinion, fits better with our offense and or majority of the other offenses in the league right now versus the scramble kind of game that Caleb would be good at and has the threat at.
I'm just going to have to stick with Trevor on the hope of they stay healthy. You know,
Yeah.
if Trevor Lawrence is healthy,
yeah.
that's a dangerous team right there.
Well, when he was healthy, like the last couple of seasons, he had multiple rushing touchdowns. I feel like you could tell he wasn't hurt because he was not trying to scramble and run as much as especially towards the end of the season.
All right, on to number 12. A guy we might be talking about here in future episodes due to the draft, Sam Howell. This is going to be a no-brainer, I feel.
Another one of those quarterbacks to help keep me in the playoff hunt because Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson got hurt, and Sam Howell was slinging the rock.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even going to be their starting quarterback this year, which is crazy. Like, he's not
He
draftable.
got traded. He's on
not
Seattle.
Draftable. Not draftable.
Yep, nope.
He's
Caleb
the backup
all day.
quarterback now.
I think we're all on a
Unlike Justin Fields, that he's going to be drafted in a lot of leagues this year. People are going to want to get him an out-off waiver claim. Like, Sam Howell is not draftable.
All right. Now, this one is going to be fun. We talked about Bryce Young at the very beginning of this, and now his counterpart, who everyone's comparing him to, C.J. Stroud at number 11. Who you keeping for fantasy?
C.J. Stroud's going to be drafted so high it's going to be almost unattainable.
He's probably first or second round.
If you're going with draft strategy and you're thinking about drafting a quarterback late, you're going to end up reaching on C.J. Stroud. If you fucking fall in love with him, it'll be a reach. I think I'm talking like a fantasy manager GM who watches all those damn fantasy football videos, and like I feel like CJ Stroud's gonna be one of those people, like if you don't reach for him in the beginning, there's no way he falls to you, and if you reach for him, you might miss out on another good player. But God, he was so consistent. But he wasn't. What number is he?
He is number 11.
So he's not top 10.
Nope.
but everyone's gonna reach for him because of all of his weapons and Joe Mixon and like
Stephon Diggs.
he could end up having a Lamar Jackson type season where they're
Yep.
straight up resting
He
everyone in the
will.
second
He's
half.
about
They're
to.
gonna dominate teams, and all of a sudden you're like, God damn it, my quarterback only got 8 points. Well, yeah, because his team is stacked.
Yep, he's sitting. So we're all agreeing to keeping C.J. Stroud over Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yep.
Easy. All right, now on to number 10, another guy we already covered, Baker Mayfield.
Would all just depend on what kind of offense I'm running and the scheme I have with it, in my opinion.
Baker gets some rushes too, but he's now starting to get older, so probably for fantasy purposes, I would probably go Caleb Williams.
See, the hard part is the receiver because you got Mike Evans on one side who you know is going to put up 1,000 yards. He's at least good for a touchdown a game.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but then you got Keenan Allen, who's basically the same fucking thing. Ooh, excuse my language. So
Put money in the swear jar. How dare you?
the beer fund. I'm gonna have to go with Caleb Williams just because he's got, a few more weapons than Baker Mayfield does down there in Tampa.
I would agree with you on that. He does have a few more weapons, which, yep, I'd pick him.
So now on to number 9. This guy can put up some numbers. His team set a record last year for 70 points scored in a game. Tua Tagovailoa or Caleb Williams.
I mean, watching him in college and stuff, that man could just produce plays like no other. And how crazy it is, he's not the biggest person or the biggest QB, but the man can throw the ball so goddamn far. I mean, yes, we've seen it in the past with Hill and shit like that, but if I'm taking him out of the draft when he first came off after playing in college, I'm still taking him. His highlight films, he's throwing balls, flicking them 50, 60 yards easily on a dime.
Wait, are we just doing fantasy or are we doing both right now?
We're doing just fantasy
Just
right
fantasy. Okay. So for just fantasy purposes, Tua, especially if he can stay healthy like he did last year. He
He stayed
jujitsu
healthy
falling.
except for getting knocked the crap out.
That was 2 years ago. He was healthy last year because I have to be a little biased here. He was my sleeper keeper last year. Carried me through the first half of the season when they were putting up points. And then I was able to pick up Kyler Murray on the bench. So I'm going to have to stick with Tua here as well, especially for fantasy purposes.
It's going to start to get harder, though, because I'm going to think about this as a fantasy draft, and once those first marquee quarterbacks, and that's what I did last year. Once all the good ones you thought who were going to be good were gone, I went and drafted Anthony Richardson in like the 10th, and then I already kept Justin Fields. So, like, I drafted some quarterbacks who were going to maybe be good instead of draft because I missed out on the ones who, you knew you were going to be good.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I've been getting real excited for where this list is heading. I really wanted to save this next one for last for all intents and purposes, but just because you said it's going to get hard, I have to go right to it. Number 8 last year, probably the next GOAT. Not probably, the next GOAT. Patrick Mahomes in fantasy purposes or Caleb Williams?
He straight killed me for the first 9 weeks of the season in our 2 quarterback league. You can't not, like, and all the fantasy people and all the sports podcasts, all the Adam Schefters and everybody, you cannot bench Patrick Mahomes. But oh my God, did I think about it so many times. And he still ended up being 8th. We were shocked when Justin Herbert was 15th.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes had a terrible season fantasy in our minds, and he's still in the top 10. I was wondering if he was even going to be on the list because I knew how poorly he scored in the beginning of the season. And obviously the answer is Pat Mahomes.
You can't.
my
You
answer's
have to take
Patty.
Pat Mahomes. Him and Travis Kelce.
My nephew resembles him and looks exactly like
We
him.
should
so
tweet
I gotta
him a
go
picture
Patrick
of your
Mahomes.
nephew and be like, Pat Mahomes, come on our podcast. Look we have your little mini-me.
My nephew knows you,
Shoot a commercial with
Travis
us.
Kelce. He'll always show me how Pacheco runs the ball with his head down and running like this. He goes, hey, want to see how the Kansas City Chiefs running back Pacheco runs?
Because he's angry at the ground.
I wish we had the video. Well, let's keep it going with the hard questions here. And this one, you're going to get a little bias on. You've grown to love him these past few years. He carried a team we love through the NFL season to an NFC championship for the first time in 30 years, right?
Yep.
Jared Goff or Caleb Williams, fantasy purposes.
This is really hard.
I'm taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
I'm taking
so-
Caleb Williams.
and
Sorry,
it's-
Goff. Love you, bud.
it's not
Hope you
even-
do great this year again.
He'll
But
probably still throw for 4,000 yards and 30 some odd touchdowns, or at least high 20s. But I feel like that they're gonna really lean on Gibbs this year a little more than they did last year. They're gonna trust him a little bit more. They're gonna we are gonna run the rock. Dan Campbell wants to run the football, and Jahmyr Gibbs is so fucking electric. Like, he could get stuff 10 times in a row and then break one for 70. You know what I mean? Like, it's just craziness.
don't get me wrong. I appreciate and love Goff, but his position is hard. But to either A, hand the ball off, B, throw it out to a flat, safe route to Laporta, who's going to do work, B, fuck it, long shot to James Williams, who is quick as a motherfucker, or D, your safe route that Amon-Ra St. Brown is for sure going to catch it and or beat his defender. You got all those options. So at that point, I'm taking Caleb Williams, who not only has all those options, but is a playmaker himself.
And I gotta throw this out there, but I'm going to assume, but you don't want to assume all the time. But for everyone out there who is actually listening, we love you and appreciate you, and we should have, as fantasy football podcasters, eventually we'll be doing more of this. We should have said that we are all thinking about this as a standard PPR scoring, so passing touchdowns is 4, passing yards are way less, and rushing yards are a lot more. So that's why Caleb Williams is so hard to gauge, because we're assuming Caleb Williams is probably going to have, 800 rushing yards behind that offense line?
Easy. Yep.
They're going to tell him to
He's
get
gonna
one
be
or
the-
two reads and run.
Well, I mean, they're going to, in my opinion, if I'm having Caleb Williams, I'm doing like a wildcat when we're on the 3rd, 4th, 5th yard line, like in the red zone, Do a wildcat, either run option, run pass. Either he runs it in or he does a little flip pass or a little quick slant to someone.
It's crazy
I
how
don't
much
see them stopping all that.
the rushing numbers boost up in fantasy in the standard PPR scoring. That's why, even comparing Matt Stafford to him is hard, because Stafford's got to throw for 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdowns to compete with Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams only throws for 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, rushes for 800 yards and 6 touchdowns, he's going to score more points than Matt Stafford easily.
All
and
day.
that's crazy to think about just because of the way the scoring works.
See, and I hate that I'm going to say this, and I hope to God if we ever go anywhere with this that a Detroit player doesn't come back to this episode and listen, because I'm going to have to also go with Caleb Williams over Jared Goff just because of
Just
the
for
rushing,
fantasy.
just the rushing touchdown upside for fantasy purposes only. So let's get to this next one, because this could be real fun here. Brock Purdy or Caleb Williams?
Ooh.
I gotta say Caleb Williams, but I want to be biased and say Brock Purdy just because the amount 49ers have him for and what he's been capable of and been doing for the 49ers is just immaculate, and I love it. But at the same time, I would, in my opinion, I'd have to go Caleb Williams.
And
Just because McCaffrey rushes,
But he also
catches.
catches.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. But if you're in the red zone, and it's 1st and 12 or like 1st and 14, they're running the ball 2-3 times, getting that first down, and then running in again with McCaffrey.
And that was kind of the whole thing.
Or
where
Debo.
He wasn't
randomly.
on the fantasy radar last year. They're like, all of his numbers were catch and run by Debo and CMC. And then this year he led the league in yards per attempt.
Yeah.
And his passer rating was number
Oh, it was
1
immaculate.
or number
Yeah.
2.
It
I
was,
think it might have been the
it was definitely
highest in the
top
league.
3. It was definitely top 3.
But at the same time, Brock Purdy, he did it
He
against
did,
us.
yep.
But that's like, it's like the Patrick Mahomes mentality. He was laying it all on the line during the NFC Championship game.
I forget what game it was. He went like 33 for 36 or some shit like that for like 300 plus yards. Like,
See, it's coming down to the O-line for me. I got to take Brock Purdy for that.
I'm curious to see.
That's
I
saying
haven't
put
even
Caleb
started
Williams
watching.
in that same spot.
Oh, that's a whole different story, but that would be another podcast.
I mean, yes, but like,
But yeah, I think you're right. Like last year, I'm using kind of a lot of the information we had last year going into fantasy football drafts, and I haven't really started gearing up for that just yet.
Oh,
but
it's
like,
not time for
I
that
can't
yet.
wait to see where Brock Purdy, where they're slating him in drafts. Like all of a sudden, because of his efficiency and the offense and the offensive line, like you're saying, I might have to lean Brock Purdy as long, if he like is able to be, because Patrick Mahomes is going to get drafted before Brock Purdy.
if McCaffrey were to have a preseason, which I pray and hope that never happens, preseason injury, then I'm taking Brock Purdy all day, every day.
All right, so we got one quick one here, and then we're going to get into probably the 4 hardest ones you guys are going to have. So let's get through this quick one here. Another rival of ours. We don't quite want to see this dude succeed. Jordan Love.
Jordan Love over him. It's so easy. It's too easy. He's good. He's so good, and I hate him.
Yep, I don't want to like him, but I got to go with him.
It's hard to pick either just because they're division
honestly,
rivals.
I pick Jordan Love all day. He's proven himself, and he's going to keep proving himself for the next few seasons of what he's capable of.
And all the experts like
The Packers don't really have that great of an offense. I mean, they
They got young talent, but
yes, they have young talent, but they don't have any superstars anymore. And I mean, they had a great, decent running backs. All their wide receivers, I mean, Jaden Reed, you don't really hear about. Christian Watson, you only heard about because he had those few back-to-back 2-touchdown games, this and that. None of them are star, talented wide receivers, but the kid still makes do with what he has. And he does work with what he has, and that's scary. Put him on a good-ass team with multiple threats. So that's a championship team all day.
I mean, like I've been mentioning rushing. He can rush. But he always looks to throw first. But he does rush.
Yep.
He does have rushing ability.
So I'm taking Jordan Love on that.
Yep.
I think we're all going to have to stick with Love there.
As much as we don't want to, fuck you, Packers.
That's
going to
be one of those draft picks that, we hate to pick in our fantasy football draft because we don't want to root for Jordan Love. But, if he falls to, a round 5 or 6, you're going to be like, Jordan Love is still here. I'm taking him all day.
You have to. All right. So now I kind of want to quiz you guys real quick. There are 4 quarterbacks left on this list. Who do you think is number 4?
Who's left? Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers.
He had 4 plays.
Josh Allen.
Your boy.
Connor, what's your answer?
Anthony
Justin
Richardson.
Fields.
No,
he didn't
he
play
had
enough
5 games.
True. Oh, yeah, you're right.
He scored over 20 points in the game where he got the concussion in the first
And he's getting
quarter.
Josh Allen.
Lamar.
Condor is correct.
Oh.
It is Lamar Jackson.
Josh Allen's probably number 1.
Lamar Jackson or Caleb Williams.
Lamar's a straight
Dog!
Easy.
But he's going to be
Lamar all day, twice on Sundays.
for fantasy
I love
purposes.
Yeah.
When you guys see what happened last year, he just sat out the second half the whole time. Pretty much a lot of those games.
I'm
and he
still
still finished what? 4th?
4th, yes.
Even with Derrick Henry, he's still going to finish top 10. You just can't reach for him.
He averaged
There's no way
21.1
you're taking
points.
Caleb Williams over Lamar Jackson. There's no fucking way.
No. All right.
Him at Louisville? He went to Louisville? Play at
Correct.
Louisville? Oh, my God. I've watched his highlight films at Louisville at least 5-6 times. At least.
I don't ever want to see the highlights against the Lions again. He just
Bro,
straight made
you
us
should
look
see
silly.
him playing for Louisville. He made 6-7 people on every play look like a rag doll, just cutting back and forth. Oh my God, it's hilarious. So Lamar all day.
On to number 3 here. Do we want to keep the quiz going?
I feel like
Justin,
three.
there's no way Justin Fields
I
is
feel like
top.
3 is no.
Josh Allen is 1. I'm pretty confident now.
I feel like 3 is Josh Allen.
No.
All right, Condor's locked in with Josh Allen. No.
no,
We got need Vanny's answer. I said that's your answer. Locked in.
I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, man, I think more.
Oh, Dak Prescott is who I'm going with.
Final answers. You locking in?
Yep.
Baney's correct here. Let's go.
Alright, fuck
We got
you.
Dak Prescott coming in at number 3. Him or Caleb Williams.
Dude.
See,
I'm
I don't think
taking
these
Dak.
last ones are hard.
I'm taking
it's fun.
Dak just with like not only physicality, his height, weight, but his ability to throw, scramble, this and that at that time or where I mean, I'm taking him right now.
And
Even though
we want to talk about contracts, not necessarily this episode, but we're going to talk about some contracts. And you know what happens when a player is in their contract year? He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Dak Prescott is going to ball the fuck out. Like, I might even reach on him because
still
he's
totally
going to
what
run the
playoffs
football
does.
like he never ran it before. He doesn't have a running back. He still has most of his wide receivers in tote. He fucking was slinging the rock last year and had a lot of confidence.
Oh, him and CeeDee Lamb put up insane.
God.
CeeDee Lamb was the number 1 wide receiver. It was Tyreek Hill for most of the season.
Yep.
And CeeDee eclipsed him. So, like, oh, man, I'm excited for that Lions game. Fuck you, Alfred. We're coming for
Oh,
you.
we're coming with
We're
revenge.
coming for you.
On to number 2 here. Who do we have locked in for these final 2 top fantasy players? I'll give you a hint. You guys have correctly guessed one of them, but what order is it? We don't know.
I say, I know, I'm pretty confident Josh Allen finished number 1, so I'm trying to figure out who the heck is number 2.
Give me 20 seconds.
I want to be like, give me the team.
No.
No, that's,
Let's give it away. Let's give it away at that point. We get 20 seconds. Run the teams. Shit.
Kirk Cousins. No, he got injured halfway through the season. That was a light bulb, and then I fucking shattered it right away.
all right. 5 seconds. Final answers.
Oh, Jalen Hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
You both locking in Jalen Hurts?
Bitch,
Both
that's
two?
my. Don't fuck
Yeah,
with me.
steal
Come
it. I
on.
don't care.
Fuck you.
You both are correct.
Yeah, fuck you, bitch. Yeah, fuck you.
That's okay.
It took me a second.
I stole it. I don't give
So
a
I
fuck.
don't
that.
think
There's no rules in this game. I didn't say I couldn't steal your answer. This isn't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, motherfucker. I'll phone a friend if I want to.
even if they have Saquon
Duh, I
Barkley
should've
on the
known
Eagles
that.
now, I think there's no way in hell that we're drafting Caleb Williams over Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen.
No.
So we
Yep,
can
so
rock.
Josh Allen was number 1, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. Those are the two. Even although we are worried without Jason Kelsey a little bit.
A little bit.
But Jason Kelsey is
Jalen Hurts is capable of.
But they are in a position to draft a decent lineman.
No, oh yeah, that's true.
But according to what we're thinking here, we're thinking Caleb Williams is a mid-pack quarterback.
yes, I'd say mid-pack quarterback.
Definitely
Mid-pack paddywhack quarterback. Give him a dog a
Well,
bone.
and we're talking mid-pack fantasy
Well,
quarterback.
even over
Yeah.
first overall draft pick.
Yeah. Only time will tell, though. But since
Exactly.
we did all this, draft stuff, Caleb Williams, we're going to be down there at the NFL draft on Thursday and Friday. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am. Like, I've been so interested in sports media for so long. Like I said, when the NFL Network got on Charter Cable, which is now Spectrum, I was fucking geeked. I love watching all that shit, all the draft coverage, all the news networks covering everything, talking about all the players. What are you guys most excited to see when we go down there and see the NFL draft live in person?
Hope to be able to talk some fucking shit in sports to Pat McAfee.
I'm not sure that they'll allow us on the set. There's probably
No,
big
but it's
security
happening.
guys. They'll probably have guns. It's Detroit.
I feel like they still got to have some people in the background of the show, for him.
Oh, I'm assuming they'll be shooting and like they do on College Game Day and when they
Yeah.
do a show live. Like we'll be able to be in the background. I'm excited for that. we already have some ideas. We got some cheers in place. Are you guys as excited as I am to fucking get Brad Campbell or Brad Campbell? God damn it, I do that so much.
Oh, it's the.
But I love you, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. Just get married and just live as Detroit Lions forever in holy matrimony.
Never leave.
I can marry you. I'm an ordained minister of the state of Michigan.
But how electric would it be to get some of those, awesome, like, man, Dan has big balls.
Dan has big balls.
With 50,000 people around us all chiming in, little kids included, just Dan has big balls. Woo! I would, and like Pat, you guys said that they're not going to have a speaker facing us, so we won't be able to hear the show. We'll have to watch back.
We'll just have to time it at 7:32 for our thank you, Sheila.
Oh my God, yes. That's the one that, like, I think the Dan Campbell one is going to be the most funny, but like
Timing
the thank you,
is
Sheila
everything,
one.
baby.
That's the most important to me. I think that would be so cool if someone like a social media influencer for the Detroit Lions is like, hey, Miss Sheila Ford Ham, did you see this on the Pat McAfee show? And they hand her a cell phone and she watches the video and the whole crowd is just.
And then she gives us season tickets.
Yeah, season tickets for the rest of our lives. Sheila, please, we love you.
We will do nothing but promote Lions.
Every day, all the time. Well, we're going to do it anyways, but season tickets would be awesome.
We can get more content.
Please.
Well, so we already kind of shed light on it, but since we have our biggest game, the 49ers, guys, it's kind of crazy that Brock Purdy and how rookie contracts work. So, like, Brock Purdy is going to get paid like $900,000, still 10 times what Caitlin Clark is going to get paid, but he's the 67th
amongst quarterbacks in pays.
I remember I was just talking with my dad, and I was like, yeah, if I was Brock Purdy, I'd hold out for more money. But he legit can't because of the rookie pay scaling and the rookie contracts. That's absolutely nuts where, like, they do not have to, and there's nothing he could do to get paid right now.
And unfortunately, no matter what, San Francisco can just say it's not him, it's the weapons.
Oh, no. They said that all last season. Brock Purdy still put up numbers. Not fantasy numbers, but, like, he did. But either way, the rookie contract scaling is nuts. The fact that he can't he could renegotiate, but they're gonna wait because they just got $30 million extra this year for the salary cap increase, and they signed Nick Bosa and they're
the
trying
money that team's gonna have with the amount of threats they have on that team is just it's scary. It's so scary.
It's absolutely nuts. What could be the next Brock Purdy? Like, he is totally an anomaly. Like, we talk about the GOAT Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, but it would be crazy to see in a year from now what happens with the draft. Who is the next Brock Purdy, who is an absolute steal in a 6th, 7th round, and we're talking about this person potentially being a Hall of Fame player and that team. It would be crazy to look back all the teams who got a snag in the 6th round and went on to have like some good success for a couple of years because they were saving money on a player like a Brock Purdy or others like that late in the rounds.
I mean, as much as a MSU fan I am, possible. I mean, yes, we have Hendon Hooker, but if I'm any other team besides the Lions fan, be definitely looking at McCarthy down the long stretch, see what he's capable of. Might be able to produce at the next level, might not be able to, but good person to have as your backup or to see what he can do. Throw him in on certain plays or certain like situations where you're up or down by a lot, see what he's capable of.
I'm, and we talked all about Caleb Williams, and as a big University of Michigan fan, I want to root for J.J. McCarthy.
Go Blue.
I'll say, wait, you want to say the second part of that?
Go green.
Oh, you're just whispering it? Just whispering it? Don't want to say the other part to that?
Go green, bitch.
Oh, okay. There's not a second part to that MSU chant?
You're ugly ass blue.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Go green, fuck blue.
You only need one chant. Let's go blue. You can say too many words in your chant.
Yeah, because you're half as good.
But I don't know if J.J. McCarthy is going to have a super successful NFL career. Well, he doesn't have a lot of plays, not a lot of passes. Like you said, I think it's a project. He's got to sit. But, if people are leading him to possibly the 4th overall pick now, which is crazy.
And that's no. Later on is where I'm saying if we can get him later on in the draft, that might be something
could drop.
possible. If he does drop, that's where I'd pick him up. But I wouldn't even say first round.
I think I can't wait. I'm so excited to see the draft, guys. I'm so excited to be live there. We're going to be down there interviewing people live outside of the draft area because we don't want the NFL to seize all of our recordings. But we're hoping to see and talk to some people live. I'm super stoked about it. And thank you guys for listening to our amazing sports podcast. I can't remember what our name is because I never remember.
Because he's cross-faded.
Oh, there it is. Cross-faded. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, everybody love everybody.
I'll be
right there.
We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
Football.